The Turtles have been through a lot, and like most stories, their timeline has to come to an end too. The Last Ronin is the gritty tale of the last surviving turtle and how he needs to exact vengeance. How he needs to exact revenge on the man responsible for destroying his entire family, Oroku Hiroto, the grandson of Oroku Saki, the original Shredder, and the son of Oroku Karai. So without further ado, let's get into the story. The Last Ronin, Death Wish. The Ronin is busy talking to his brothers as he dips his hand into the sludge, below which was supposed to be water at some point in time, but now it's toxic, cold, and deadly. His brothers try to warn him, but Ronin doesn't have many choices at his disposal. There are no roads, no bridges, and no boats leading into the city, and so his only choice is to swim through the sludge to make his way there, make his way back into his own city, New York City. The Ronin ensures his weapons are securely bound to his body before taking the plunge into the toxic sludge. You'd have to be crazy to swim in that sludge, and this finally pushes Ronin over the edge. He's had enough of his brother's warnings, and he snaps back at them that if the sludge bothers them that much, then they can gladly stay behind. Hey, where you go? We go. You know that. And that's the end of the conversation. The Ronin continues steadily wading his way through the sludge as it keeps getting deeper and deeper until he finally reaches the high walls encasing the city. The sludge smells bad and tastes worse. And if it was any other human taking on this task, they would have succumbed to the toxicity as soon as they entered it. But the Ronin is not a human, which is why he has now managed to reach where he has to. He runs along the wall, finding a suitable place to make his way inside. This is when he spots a camera and takes it out instantly using his shurikens. He spots the minimal defenses on the outside of the city walls and notices that most of them are designed to keep the people from getting out of the city. This, however, works to his advantage, as with a simple swing of his grappling hook, he manages to get over the wall and onto the street level. In his mind, the Ronin is plagued with the thirst for revenge. He's here to do one thing and one thing only, and he will die trying to accomplish it. He makes his way through the back alleys toward the main streets of the Lower East Side and is surprised to see how overcrowded it has become over the past 16 years. Bikes, pubs, city commuters, and flying cars all create a controlled chaos that one can barely discern unless they know what they're looking for. The ghosts of his brothers continue to haunt him as they say that this chaos will make it a lot more difficult for the Ronin to operate in secrecy. But over the past 16 years, the Ronin too has learned a few tricks, and his general plan will remain the same. All he needs to do is get to the top of Oroku Tower as he uses his sai to point at it from a distance. The Ronin keeps scanning the street for a way to get to the tower, while the ghosts of his brothers continue taunting him. One of them jokes that the tower isn't exactly a cab ride away, nor does he have the power to fly, while another brother spots the surrounding security and how it has increased tenfold since the last time they were in the city. The Ronin, meanwhile, can't let these thoughts occupy his mind. He has one goal, and he's ready to do anything for it. That's when he spots two bikes parked right in front of it, begging to be used, to be a part of his new plan. And while his brothers don't approve, the Ronin is already walking towards them. A couple of minutes later, 4 men and a young teenage woman come walking out of a pub, and wouldn't you know it, the bike Ronin chose to steal belonged to the woman, a woman named Jones. The Ronin, meanwhile, isn't exactly being coy as he races through the streets directly headed for the Oroku Tower. Pedestrians soon start to notice as the Ronin continues popping wheelies in an attempt to gain more speed. But they aren't the ones he's worried about, especially not now when he has reached the base of the tower. It is swarming with security, while a fuel truck seems to be refueling the tower's supply. His brothers continue to joke because they all had insisted on taking something more stealthy. One of them insists that the Ronin should have stolen a glider instead, which would have made his job a lot easier, while the other jokes that he should have stolen a catapult and launched himself straight towards the top floor where Hiroto is holed up. But the Ronin is going to do what he's been doing all this while: adapt and overcome. He spins the bike's wheels and lights a stick of dynamite, which is jammed into the bike the very next second. He then backflips off of the bike and sends it hurtling toward the fuel tanker. By the time the security and service personnel on the ground notice the bike, it's mere inches away from hitting the truck. But the Ronin is there too, and he's heading straight towards the top of the truck. And As the explosion goes off, the Ronin is launched straight into the air, protected mostly by the turtle shell on his back. These plans, where he adapts and overcomes, don't always go as intended, and this is one of those times. Because instead of heading straight up, he's slammed sideways into a nearby wall, and now he needs a little luck to reach where he needs to. He jumps off of the wall and aims for a vent leading into the tower. Thankfully, his luck hasn't run out, and the Ronin manages to grab onto a ledge and pull himself up. He then opens the vent and heads inside, while his brothers return to their normal bickering. The vent is filled with wires, and one of his brothers suggests that he use them to hack into the tower's security. And while it's a good idea, the Ronin knows where they are. He can smell it. They're in the sewers. He pushes through a bunch of cables, and he's right. There's a sewer grate right in front of him. He pushes the grate away and climbs onto the road above, but as he does this, an alarm starts going off from the sewer. Turns out each grate is rigged to keep out any intruders, like the Ronin. Everybody on the street is staring at him as the alarm continues to ring in the background. Soon, a lightly armored security guy screams at him to stand still. The Ronin notices the guy and takes account of his robotic implants. Then another security guy joins in, and this is already getting out of hand. The Ronin drops a few smoke pellets and quickly makes his escape. He soon finds some high ground as he continues watching the security guys search for him using their cybernetic implants. The sight of a robotic security guy armed with a katana intrigues him, and he leaps for the guard to get a better look at him. With a few punches, he seems to have knocked out the security guy. He's not that tough after all, but as he walks away, the guard gets back up, and this surprises the Ronin. He didn't expect the guy to get back up so easily. It's time he tests how good these guys have been trained, and so he attacks the guard using his tonfas. And as he smacks the guard in the face, a part of the armor is chipped away, and we can now see a human eye underneath it. But the guard continues to repeat the word halt in his usual robotic voice. But before the Ronin can realize the implications of this, he has already decapitated the guard with another blow to the side of his head. And that's when he and the brothers notice the human eye. And while the eye is human, the rest of the neck seems to be cybernetic. It's some sort of synthetic human hybrid. And this is highly revolting to the Ronin's brothers. But the Ronin knows the extent to which the man he's here to kill will go. That's why he's here back in the city to hunt him down. But the Ronin has stared at the decapitated guard for too long. More are approaching him in the background as they realize one of them has been killed. The place will be swarming with forces soon. And so, before they can catch the Ronin red-handed, he uses his grappling hook to make a quick getaway. He leaps and lunges through the air, slowly making his way towards the tower. Every now and then he's confronted by a few guards that manage to stumble onto him, but he makes quick work of them with a swipe of 2. But as he gets closer to the tower, the number of guards keeps increasing, and some of them are even armed with guns now, and the guards that wield guns are faster than their katana-wielding counterparts. This forces the Ronin to change his plans. He now needs a better transport that helps put some distance between him and the guards. He takes out the gun-wielding guard by throwing him off of a high-rise tower, while he himself uses the opportunity to jump on top of a high-speed train. Once he nears the tower, he leaps off and lands on a flying car. Sadly for him, he's just landed on top of a police car, and he needs to think quickly. The Ronin instinctively throws out both the cops in the car, hoping that he can control it and get to the tower easily. But the controls are jammed. Standard security protocol, something he failed to account for. The car wildly swivels in the air as it catches speed and plows through a billboard. The Ronin has no choice but to leap out of the uncontrollable machine and onto the street below. But a string of bad luck continues as the car he just leaped out of heads straight for him and crashes into the ground. He manages to leap away just in time, but this unplanned, instinctive, not so stealthy escape has given his brothers more than enough ammo to fire back at him. Smooth moves. Classic. You still can't fly 10 feet in a straight line, the Ronin mumbles for his brothers to shut up, knowing full well that even though he wasn't graceful, he's way closer to his goal now. He leaps from rooftop to rooftop, edging closer than ever to Oroku Tower. In the tower, we see that his goal, the person he intends to murder for destroying his entire family, his brothers, Oroku Hiroto, is already on his case. He talks to his head of security, Captain Ikusa, who tells him about the disturbance in the lower business zone. Hiroto looks out of the tower as he grants Ikusa to sound the general alarm. He also authorizes the use of lethal force and wants everything televised for the citizens of New York to witness. He wants to make an example out of the intruder, unaware that it's a ghost from his past, out for revenge. The Ronin, meanwhile, has been struggling with his thoughts. He can't wait to get his hands on Hiroto, son of Karai and grandson of Shredder, and as he leaps through the air and takes cover behind a wall, he can see the entrance to the tower right above him. Unfortunately, the entrance is already swarming with security guards and drones. Cars and drones fly in and out of the entrance, yet the Ronin is undeterred. This is the moment he has been waiting for. This is the moment he has trained for. Using his ninja skills, he attaches himself to the underside of a police car as it flies up into the tower and disembarks as soon as it enters. He hides behind a metal grate, and the tone of his brothers instantly changes. They help him perform recon, informing him of all the guards around him, all the military-grade equipment and enhanced soldiers unaware of his presence. But the Ronin doesn't plan on wasting his time at these lower levels. He needs to reach Hiroto, and that too fast. And so when he spots two service personnel getting ready to make their way into the tower with a transport bike, he ambushes them and steals the bike. The idea is to directly attack the tower. The sudden surprise of this move could buy him a few extra minutes. The bike screeches as the Ronin makes his way inside, tackling and running over any security guard that tries to stand in his way. Once he's near the locked door that he needs to get through, he lets the bike do the job for him. As it explodes, the metal door is flung open, however. It's too late. He is already surrounded and swarmed by Foot Clan soldiers. Without a second thought, the Ronin leaps into the air and starts taking out guards using his tonfa. He punches, smacks, and kicks as many as he can, and when he finally sees an opening, he drops 3 tiny bombs and waits. The resulting explosion is more than enough to buy him time for his escape, but that's when he senses something coming at him. Something faster and bigger than anything he's faced till now. It's an enhanced Foot Clan soldier with massive upgrades. It zooms in towards the Ronin with his cybernetic blades drawn, but the Ronin is faster than him. He takes out 3 tiny blades and hits the approaching soldier in his arms and skull. He then bends down and rips the Foot Clan soldier's arm out as he thinks about Hiroto. What a deplorable man, always using his toys, his soldiers, to do his dirty. And while the Ronin is making quick work of his soldiers, Hiroto is growing angrier and angrier by the second in his control. He didn't want his failures to be televised to the entire city. He wanted to show the capture and execution of the intruder. His security chief, Ikusa, tries to reassure him that every resource available to him is being used, but Hiroto is at the end of his patience. "I don't think you understand, Captain. Either I have his head on a pike before this day is through, or I will have yours." The Ronin, meanwhile, is cutting through Foot Clan soldiers like a hot knife through butter, and once he has some breathing room, he turns towards the cameras and screams, "I know you're watching Oroku Hiroto, and I know you're scared. I'm coming for you, coward." When Hiroto sees the Ronin's face, all color fades away from his face. He can't believe one of them survived. He can't believe that it's a mutant turtle right here in his tower. He orders every available soldier to converge on the Ronin's location, but they're no match for him. The Ronin uses his tonfa to block, punch, and smash his way through every Foot Clan soldier that stands in his way, and when he reaches the second floor, we see the pile of bodies that lie in his wake. He uses a dead Foot Clan soldier's eye to get past the biometric security lock, and then makes quick work of the team waiting for him on the other side. This time, he's using his katana. He stabs the last soldier in the chest and then kicks him out of the window with a bomb attached to his chest. The explosion goes off quite close to the top floor of the tower, and we know that the Ronin is only a few feet below Hiroto now. Hiroto has lost his temper and orders his men to use the Stockman tech. The Ronin, meanwhile, continues looking at the cameras as he makes his way through the tower, taunting Hiroto at each step. Hiroto, meanwhile, is too busy indulging in his god complex, thinking that he doesn't need to deal with the Ronin. He's the master of the entire city after all. And next we see what the Stockman tech is. A bunch of small, unstoppable tiny Mausers equipped with lasers. But the Ronin doesn't plan on dealing with these tiny machines. He uses a quick localized EMP blast to take them out. But that's when he spots a big giant Mauser hurtling straight at him. He manages to stab the robot directly in its leg, but it's too huge, and its momentum sends both the Ronin and the robot flying out of their window. There's nothing he can do anymore as he plummets towards the ground. He was so so close to Hiroto, and yet he's now falling to his demise. He tries to use the robot to somewhat slow down his descent, but it breaks apart as they continue crashing through false ceilings. And when the Ronin finally hits the ground, he creates a large impact in the asphalt below. Thankfully, he's still alive, but sadly, too consumed by his hunger for revenge. He bleeds uncontrollably from the mouth as he slowly tries to get up. Security guards are making their way through the crowd gathered around him, but by the time they reach where the Ronin had landed, he's long gone. Hey, bag of bolts. Dude you're looking for is not dead. Took of that way. It's the girl whose bike the Ronin stole earlier, and she and her gang seem to be helping him get away, because the direction she pointed the guards in is a fake one, and she asks her gang to stay here for a while to make sure the guards don't return. And as we see the girl follow the trail of blood left by the Ronin, we see that he's entered one of the sewer grates. Back in his tower, Hiroto is busy reaping the fruits of the Ronin's death. He celebrates and walks towards a stasis container, reveling in the foolishness of the Ronin and how the mutant turtle thought he could touch Hiroto, the master, the god of this city. And as he approaches the stasis container, we see that it contains his comatose mother, Oroku Karai. While he talks to his unconscious mother, he is approached by Captain Ikusa, his head of security, in the background. Hiroto's happy face suddenly loses color once again because the Ronin isn't actually dead, and Ikusa's men have been unable to capture him. Next, we see the Ronin limp and groggily make his way deeper into the soup, still coughing and leaving a trail of blood as he battles with his thoughts. He always knew this was a suicide mission, always knew he wouldn't come back, but it would have been better if he died in battle, died fighting Hiroto. But now that that's no longer the case, he needs to end it on his own terms, for his family, for her honor. He falls to the ground and uses the broken sword of his brother to slowly pick himself back up. His brothers try to protest, try to tell him he doesn't need to do this, but the Ronin is done. He doesn't wish to hear anymore, and the voices of his brothers fall silent. The Ronin takes off his hood and then starts pulling out the weapons of his brothers one by one out of his bag. First, he pulls out Donatello's bow staff. Next is Leonardo's broken sword. It's Michelangelo's nunchucks next, followed by Raphael's sais. Each movement is costing him precious time, causing him grievous pain. All the while, blood won't stop pouring out of his mouth. He lays down each weapon with respect in front of him and then stares at his hands. We were always so different, so much alike. I miss my brothers so much. He then takes a small pouch from his waist and pulls out all the masks of his brothers, purple, red, orange, and blue. He lays them across the weapons and then pulls out his most precious possession, his father's journal. I miss my father. He places the journal down beside the weapons gently and bows. As he gets up, he picks up Leonardo's broken sword, checks its sharp end, and then positions it right under his ribcage. The Ronin is about to perform seppuku, a ritual honorable suicide among the samurais. But as he tries to push the blade into his flesh, the Ronin knows it's too late. He's lost too much blood and is now losing focus. He coughs again as we see the girl who saved him approach from the background. Her eyes widen in surprise as she watches the Ronin fall to the floor, unable to complete his ritual. No, not like this, not this way, are the Ronin's last words before he passes out. Holy crap, no way. You're a mutant turtle. The Ronin is in his head, passed out as he dreams about his brothers. They're all teenagers, and as he opens his eyes, he sees them teasing him, asking him to wake up. The Ronin is bandaged, and his head hurts a lot. They all agree they've seen worse injuries, but what he just went through was pretty horrific. Whatever. Where are we anyways? Asks the Ronin, and all the brothers join in to welcome him home. They are all back in their old sewer lair, and it's just like the Ronin remembers it. But as he looks down at his arms, realizes he's a teenager, realizes that the old lair is long gone. He snaps back to reality and starts waking up. And once he opens his eyes, he can't believe he's not dreaming. It's April O'Neil, his old friend, still alive, old and scarred, but still alive. The Ronin rubs his head, still coming to terms with reality, and April's words to him reveal the secret we've all been waiting for. You really had me worried, mister, but who were you just talking to? Michelangelo? The Last Ronin, Part 2, First to Fall. April lies in her bed motionless, struggling with all the past memories Michelangelo's recent appearance have brought up. Tears begin to stream down her face as she remembers the night it all started. She was back at her apartment with Casey, preparing a huge dinner for the Turtles, eager to surprise them with the news of her and Casey engagement. But that's exactly when all hell broke loose. Ralph slammed the front door open while clutching his sides, with blood covering almost every limb of his body. The agitated and frustrated turtle then goes straight for the dinner table, clearing it for his injured father, who was brought into the apartment by Mikey and Donnie the very next second. "Ambush!" screamed Ralph as Casey sprung into action, going straight for his baseball bat. And while Ralph is bleeding, it's their father, Master Splinter April, should worry about. Back in the present day, April wakes up on her bed all alone, trying to push these harsh and hurtful memories away, but they're too much. She can't help but remember a dying and bleeding Master Splinter groaning on her dinner table. As soon as she'd seen him, April knew Splinter was in dire need for professional medical help, but she needed to take charge, and she had to push Donatello, who was busy grieving over his father's injuries. Casey and Ralph start talking about the ambush. It was the Foot Clan soldiers. They sent a large strike team that ambushed them as soon as they left the sewers. Leonardo, meanwhile, is out there watching their backs, making sure they aren't followed, and no stray Foot Clan soldiers find their way into April's apartment. Ralph and Casey are hungry for blood, and more worried about Leo. They can't have anything happening to him, but just as they're about to leave, Leo returns and tells them to stand down. He managed to get rid of the remaining soldiers, but tonight, the Foot Clan broke the truce, and this was sheer treachery. Leo can't even look at his injured father as he asks April about his health. She tells him that things are bad, and if they are to save him, they need professional help. Leo knows what needs to be done, and he asks Casey to get his van. They're going to take Master Splinter to Dr. Lee. In the background, Ralph covers his ears, unable to bear the truth, unable to listen to any more defeated voices, while Mikey lies close to his father, his sensei, as he holds his hand. All of them get ready to leave as they hear Master Splinter say, "This war, just matter of time. Oroku against Hamato, always. Karai, trying to end it once and for all." But amidst all this, they fail to notice Ralph's absence, and by the time they do, it's already too late. Ralph is gone. Ralph is leaping from rooftop to rooftop with incredible speed. His eyes and soul are hungry for blood, and the Foot Clan is about to pay the price. He enters the subway, dodges an oncoming train, and then manages to get his hands on a puny Foot Clan soldier. Ralph interrogates the soldier till he gets Karai's location. Once he does, he kills the soldier and heads for Karai's base. Karai, meanwhile, is busy raging at the strike team members that managed to return without finishing the job. She knows the truce has been broken tonight. Blood has been spilled, and it is high time that the Foot Clan finishes what they started, because after tonight, there's no turning back for them. And as she finishes her speech, men at the back of the crowd start falling down one by one. Before anyone can notice, Ralph has taken down at least 10 soldiers and is going for more. He flips, slices, thrusts, and dices anyone who gets in his way. Soldiers get slashed by his cess, get stabbed by his throwing knives each and every second. Their numbers are overwhelming, but Ralph doesn't seem to care one bit. Karai knows she has no choice, and so he gives her men the command, "Destroy the beast." Bring it! Ralph continues to slice down her soldiers without any mercy, but for how long? As the time passes, the numbers start overwhelming Ralph. He's losing his speed, and between every other kill or two, he's getting slashed and shot by arrows. Soon his entire body is covered in the blood of his enemies as arrows stick out of almost everywhere, but the bloodlust in his eyes is still steadfast. Karai knows this when she should jump into the fight, take Ralph down while he's at his lowest. Ralph manages to block her swords at the cost of a huge gash in his left arm, but that doesn't matter to him. He kicks her in the face the very next second and sends her flying away. The two of them continue to duel, pushing each other's limit with each slice, but Ralph knows it's time he ends this, and the cost. It doesn't matter to him. As Karai misses, Ralph takes the advantage and hauls her up in the air and then towards the sea. The two of them start sinking to the bottom as Ralph refuses to let go of her. They struggle and sink deeper until Karai finally manages to stab Ralph with a knife and breaks free. This is it. This blow kills Ralph and he succumbs to his fate and continues to sink in the water. Karai too, meanwhile, has fainted, unable to hold her breath any longer. But this is her base, and soon Foot Clan soldiers manage to grab her and pull her out. Ralph, on the other hand, has no choice to continue sinking. The sight of his Sei, leaving his grip, being his final moment. April sits up, heaving heavily on her bed as she finally manages to get a hold of herself. As she gets out of bed, we see that she has been through her own hell over the past few years. She's missing an arm and a leg, and so has to wear prosthetics each day as a part of her routine. She manages to put on her arm, but when it comes to her leg, it slips out of her hand and rolls away. She sighs, maybe feels pity for a moment, but then her face lights up. Hey Casey, a little help here. We see the leg has rolled and landed right under Casey's bag of hockey sticks and his signature mask. Michelangelo, meanwhile, is busy trying to light the stove in April's place. The ghosts of his brothers are seated on the dining table as they talk about April being alive. None of them can believe that April has managed to survive all this while. Mikey too can't believe it, because all he remembers from that night is the explosion that knocked them all out. And when Mikey came back to his senses, he couldn't remember anything, not even the explosion, for days. Mikey has now managed to light the stove and put on a kettle to boil water. His brothers, however, are busy fighting over Ralph's actions. The night the explosion happened, Ralph wasn't there because he had decided to go out and fight his own battle, which is why everyone thinks he's hot-headed. And as the kettle begins to whistle in the background and the water is heated, so does Mikey's temper begin to rise. He picks it up, trying to distract himself when he lets what he's thinking slip under his breath. Never enough. Ralph ends up hearing this and retorts to Mikey, yeah, at least I didn't try to off myself at the first whiff of failure. This is it for Michelangelo. He can't hold back any longer and throws the kettle at his brothers. He's the one who's managed to survive this long. Yet all those years ago, even now, Ralph manages to make everything about himself. Mikey and the rest have always fought Ralph's battles, all the fights he has started because of his ill temper, and now he's going to tell Mikey about failures? You knew what my mission was in the tower. A one-way ticket from the start. For our father, for our family, for honor. But as Mikey says honor, he snaps back to reality. There's no one there sitting in front of it. No one. The dining table is empty, and he has been screaming at thin air all this while. He groans and grits his teeth as he tries to steady himself by making tea again. His brothers' ghosts stay quiet until Mikey finally tries to say something good. He shouldn't have survived that fall, but he did. And if he's still here, then the battle isn't over yet. He pours out a cup for each of his brothers, and they all hold it up as Mikey says, I will finish what we started, what Master Splinter raised us to do. The last Oroku must die. This is when April walks in, and she isn't happy with Mikey, not one bit. Mikey knows this because she uses his full name, Michelangelo. She knows he should be rested, but he's here and out of bed. Mikey tries to calm her down by telling her the truth. He couldn't sleep and so decided to make some tea. She calms down and decides to join him for the tea. However, over the years, April has become addicted to caffeine, so she adds a little dose of it to her cup. Mikey notices her fake arm and can't help but apologize for it. She brushes it off, trying to lift his spirit. She's glad to have them after a long time because he's back in her life. They're like souvenirs to her now, from the last time the two of them were together. The two of them know they have some serious catching up to do, but April isn't letting that happen until they've had a proper breakfast. And April is going to treat Mikey to organic eggs, which are a rarity in the world now thanks to the production of synthetic food. Word on the street is you really rattled his cage, she says as she continues cooking breakfast. Mikey knows he did, but that wasn't the plan. The plan was to kill him. He confides in April that he should be dead from the fall he had, yet he's here, alive and well, and healing every second. April is tired of Mikey's big-headed thoughts because it doesn't take a genius to see that Mikey's mutation has progressed significantly over the past few years. She points the spatula at him in anger. You're bigger, stronger, and you're healing amazingly fast. Her words, however, fail to match the anger in her voice. Mikey holds his head because although his body is healing, he somehow feels he's going crazier by the minute. Still don't even know how I got back here. Back to the lair. Hold that thought. Casey. And the world flips upside down for Mikey. He recoils in shock as the cup of tea slips out of his hand. He can't believe Casey's alive. And then he spots the girl whose bike he stole. The girl who found him just as he fainted. The one who saved him from the fall, walking in. Michelangelo, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Casey Marie Jones. There's a slight hint of playfulness in April's voice. She somehow enjoys this planned shock she had ready for Mikey. Casey Marie extends her hand to Mikey and reminds him of how they've already met when he was just about to pass out. She then takes a seat and tells Mikey everything she's heard about him, about his brothers, how she had never imagined meeting one of them after all these years. Mikey still has his mouth wide open, shock, still coming to terms with the fact that April's daughter is named Casey Marie Marie and what this implies. By now, April has finished cooking and she takes a seat alongside them. Like I said, Mikey, lots of catching up to do. Back in the Oroku Tower, Hiroto is busy taking out his anger in the name of sparring against his soldiers. He screams at them to attack him with all they have, and when they do, he manages to expertly evade and counterattack each one of them. That is until one of them manages to hit his arm with a stick, causing him to lose control and drop one of his batons. That was an excellent strike, and Hiroto finally appreciates the competition. But unfortunately for the soldier, this is where his life ends. Hiroto smacks the soldier in the face with his other baton and then slices his throat with a swift move. That's it. The sparring session is over, and the soldiers are now left to clean the mess Hiroto's made. He asks his captain, Chief of Security, for a full update. Unfortunately, the clan hasn't managed to locate the turtle yet. He enters a lift and the captain follows him as Hiroto continues to diss the turtles, telling the captain how these mutants had the audacity to brandish the title of ninja in the past. He refers to all of them as creatures. And now that the clan is unable to locate Mikey, Hiroto wants a change in tactics. He wants his troops to conduct a full crackdown of the city, and once they manage to capture Mikey, he wants a public execution. He wants to make an example out of him. He dismisses the captain with these last words: "You are newly raised to your rank in the wake of Captain Isuke's failure, so I will allow for your inability to locate the beast, just this one. The price for failing me again will be the same as your predecessors." As Hiroto finishes his sentence, he points towards a skull on a pike, its eyes being gouged out by ravens. It's Captain Isuke's skull, and true to his word, Hiroto now has his head on a pike because he failed to capture Mikey. Back in the lair, the three of them, April, Mikey, and Casey Marie, have finished their meal. Everyone seems to have enjoyed themselves, especially Casey Marie, who after 2 hours of kendo found the eggs awfully refreshing. Even Mikey can't help but relish the meal. It's been years since he tasted real food. Casey Marie picks up the plates and tells Mikey about the city and how it has changed. Where they live now is rock bottom, or bottom if you go by the city terms. The city has been split into 3 districts, top, middle, and bottom. Bottom, where they currently are, is the old street level where the turtles used to operate. And that's not all. April and Casey Marie are now a part of the resistance. This is when April shuts up her daughter. She will tell Mikey everything else once he's had some much needed rest. She asks Casey Marie to help Mikey change his bandages and grab some clean linen, and Casey Marie can't wait to show him the way. The two of them talk about Casey Marie's kendo training, and Mikey learns that the kid has been teaching herself by using books and videos that she could find. They arrive at the training area as Mikey realizes Casey Marie is in it for all the wrong reasons. She needs direction in her training, but unfortunately there's no one to provide it. She senses the hesitation in Mikey's voice and then tries to show him that it hasn't all been in vain. She shows Mikey his weapons and reveals that she knows he was about to perform seppuku. She picks up Leo's broken sword and tells him that she knows they were special to him, especially after the way they were placed in front of him before he could perform the ritual. Did you say anything to her? I mean, Mom? But Casey Marie shakes her head. She's kept it a secret because seeing Mikey gave April hope, and it was something Casey Marie hasn't seen her mom feel in years. Mikey thanks her, but Casey Marie has other plans in mind. She wants Mikey to teach her Japanese. She wants Mikey to teach all the lessons and techniques written in Master Splinter's journal. She flips through the pages and realizes that Mikey isn't too keen on discussing the journal because it belonged to his father. Casey Marie then changes the topic. Where have you been all this time? Mikey then goes into a flashback. Once he awoke after the explosion that knocked him out, knowing what had just happened, how he'd lost his entire family, Mikey simply decided to walk into the mountains without any preparation, but it was the wrong choice. The cold was too much for him. He'd spent his entire life in the sewers, and the mountains were a completely different animal, especially because he was cold-blooded. Mikey didn't have a chance to survive, at least not in his mind, which is why when he found an old shrine, he decided to accept his fate, but life had other plans for him. Mikey doesn't know how long he lay there waiting for his death. Maybe it was weeks, months, years. All he knows is that his mutant body refused to give up despite the harsh cold. Mikey started hearing voices in his head. head, voices telling him that his destiny was incomplete. He still had work to do, and that he couldn't leave this earthly plane without finishing the job. Finally, once it was summer, the cold weather receded, and Mikey decided to pick himself up again. He managed to find food from a nearby river and built himself a shelter. He then spent the next few years alone, thinking and reading his father's journal again and again, looking for some kind of balance, in search of a final peace. But again, that's what life had planned for him. Soon the world found him. Goons and naysayers soon showed up at the shrine he was staying in. Monster, freak, they called him many names, and were determined to kill him. And despite his training and skill, Mikey decided to accept his fate. He felt he had nothing to lose, nothing to hold on for. That is, until he saw their faces as he lay on the ground, battered and bruised. His attackers were laughing, relishing in his pain. They were taking his life just for fun. And that's when it hit Mikey. They had no honor, and he wasn't about to let himself have a dishonorable death. So he got up and took care of all of them with a few blows. He now understood. His father trained him and his brothers from birth to fight the Foot Clan, to fight the Orokus with respect and honor, because he needed to redeem his family. That's why he was alive. This was his destiny, to fight for his family's honor all the way to the end. Mikey then spent the next years of his life fighting anyone that stood in his way, learning new techniques, new forms of martial arts, using his father's journal to its full potential, because he realizes that he was the last of his clan with no master. He was the Ronin, and it was only him that could redeem his family, his clan, and restore their honor. So Mikey never gave up, never backed down, and continued fighting, training until he reached the end. He now knew he would never be able to find peace, not until he returned home to face his destiny. And that is when Mikey decided to hitch a ride on a container ship heading back towards New York City. It was time I returned home to complete my master's mission, to kill the last Oroku. Casey Marie understands, but she wants to know about the last page in the journal. It's not filled in by Master Splinter, but rather by him, and it says, "No peace." Mikey quickly snatches the journal out of her hands and tells her it simply means that he, Mikey, has more work to do before he can find peace. Good, because my crew's gonna help you. Mikey takes a good look at her, but decides to decline her offer. He appreciates her help, but he can't be responsible for any more blood spilled in his name. Casey Marie has had enough of Mikey, because this wasn't an offer, and she wasn't asking. If he wishes to kill Hiroto without her help, then he needs to get in line, because she had decided on it before Mikey. Mikey looks back at her and laughs, which puzzles Casey Marie, just trying to decide if you're more like your dad or your mom. April is now back in her room, and she's up to something. She opens up her safe and takes out a robotic head. It's the Fugitoid head, the one inhabited by Professor Honeycutt, and she has somehow managed to save it and keep it safe. All this while. The Last Ronin, Part 3, Fight or Flight. We start the issue with a flashback to when Oroku Hiroto was 16 and was ready to take the reins of the Foot Clan into his own hands. He is joined by the clan generals, and they read him his oath, how he has to swear his fealty and loyalty to the clan. Hiroto bows. "Yes, I swear my undying loyalty to all here, my most decorated generals, and to all who serve under you, with great honor and humility, I rise." A young Hiroto brandishes his family's katana as he gets ready to dish out his first orders to the general. He needs to live up to his grandfather and mother's legacy, but this war has gone on for too long. It's time he invited the Hamato clan for a formal parley. He wants his generals to send the invite to the clan's leadership that is here in Japan and in New York as well. Back in the present day, we see Hiroto dressed again in his clan's colors, eyeing his family's katana. His team tells him that the holographic projector is ready, and Hiroto turns to his mother. "Pay careful attention, mother. Time to remind this city who the master is." Hiroto walks toward the projector, ordering his men to make sure that the broadcast is seen by everyone in the city. He stands in the middle of it with his arms wide open and addresses the citizens of New York, how for the past 2 decades he has protected them, allowed them to prosper however they like, how he has let them have their lives, but they're forgetting that he is their master, and he alone can decide their fate. There is a monster in our midst. This creature, this cowardly assassin, attacked my sacred tower with one terroristic mission in mind: to tear down everything I have built. to kill me. This is treasonous, unacceptable, unfathomable, unforgivable. He rages on and tells everyone in New York that he won't stop, not until the terrorist is killed, which is why the city is now changing. From tonight until the terrorist capture, the entire city of New York is under martial law. Foot Clan soldiers begin cracking down on any resisting citizens on the street as Hiroto continues issuing orders. And know this, anyone foolish enough to harbor this terrorist will not suffer its fate. Your fate will be far worse. Your master has spoken. Foot Clan soldiers use force, use water cannons to disperse anyone remaining on the streets as Hiroto finishes his psychopathic speech. Casey Marie's gang, meanwhile, is on the street, watching everything unfold. They're hiding in an alley, and they know that things just got out of control. They need to reach Casey Marie, and they need to reach her fast. Mikey, meanwhile, is sitting in his room, staring at the last page of the journal, staring at the no piece he scribbled on the last page in rage. The ghosts of his brothers, on the other hand, are discussing Casey Marie in the background. They're clearly impressed by her skills and street smarts, but they agree with Mikey's decision. Despite her impressive talents and skills, they can't let her help in defeating Hiroto. Right, Mikey? Says Ralph, looking for Michelangelo's approval, but the turtle is torn. They are right. Casey Marie is just a kid, just 16, but that's how old they were when they first started out on this path. Mikey turns toward his brothers. Sounds familiar? Leo doesn't like this take. This isn't the same case as them. They had powers. Master Splinter had trained them from birth. Their mutation gave them the much-needed edge they needed over the foot soldiers. And Ralph agrees. Casey Marie isn't just any other kid. She's April and Casey's kid. They're Casey's kid. Mikey knows this. He knows that they aren't wrong, but he also knows many other kids that were thrust into the same battle without powers. Karai was thrust into it by her father, Shredder, and she ended up thrusting her son into it, Hiroto. They were all kids, even the turtles, just kids. And here we all are, back to square one, back to the dark. Mikey is lost in his thoughts, and he fails to notice Casey Marie entering his room. He turns towards her, and she jokes if talking to himself is a secret ninja technique or something. No, it's not. And it takes way more than sneaking up on somebody to make you a ninja. Casey Marie rubs the back of her head and apologizes. Sneaking up on Mikey was never the intention. She's here to tell him that April wants to see Mikey, while Casey Marie is headed topside to meet with her crew. And while Mikey doesn't approve of this, Casey Marie was never asking him for permission. She finds it funny how Mikey assumes that she needs his permission to do what she has been doing all this while. He asks Casey Marie to watch her back, trying to take back what he just said, and she smirks. Straight ahead, and then a left. Mom's in her lab. Mikey grimaces as the two of them walk away in different directions. Smart-ass, stubborn little kid thinks she knows everything, and she's way too damn young to be that old. Mikey reaches the lab, and as he steps inside, there's another huge surprise waiting for him, which leaves him speechless. The Fugitoid head. Mikey is in shock again. He can't believe April managed to save Fugitoid, or at least what's left of him. April pats him on the back, trying to reassure him. She wanted to do this under different circumstances, but now that Hiroto has changed his plans and put the entire city under martial law, she needs to catch Mikey up to everything. Catch him up fast. The two of them stand there staring at the Fugitoid head as April begins to tell Mikey her own story. The story of the night when the explosion that knocked out Mikey happened. The one that made him assume every one of them was killed. This begins another flashback as we see Dr. Honeycutt prepare a ship for Donnie and Master Splinter's flight. They're heading to Japan to meet Hiroto for the parley agreement, and Honeycutt is briefing Donnie about the journey. He wants them to remain radio silent during the entire trip to avoid detection. The ship's cloaking will help them escape the city easily, but once they're over the sea, he wants them to turn off the cloaking in order to save power. It's going to be a long and arduous journey, especially because they have limited power cells and none in reserve in case something goes wrong. Donnie understands and prepares for the flight while Master Splinter addresses his other sons in the background. He wants his sons and the rest of the strikers to be on the defensive. They can't appear to be aggressive in New York, while Master Splinter and Donnie are in Japan trying to negotiate a peace treaty. Leo is skeptical. He doesn't plan to appear to be aggressive, but he will be on his guard. None of them have forgotten what happened the last time a peace treaty was proposed between the two clans. Mikey is skeptical as well. Both of them feel all Orokus are liars, and their father partially agrees, but he wants to give Hiroto a chance. The young man has lost as much as they have in the war. His mother, grandfather, tons of soldiers. Master Splinter feels that maybe the young Oroku is as tired of the senseless bloodshed as they are, which is why maybe it's time to put an end to all of this. Mikey and Leo say nothing. They see what their father means, especially after losing Ralph when he fought Karai. But most of all, Master Splinter knows the Orokus have always honored tradition, honored the ways of their clans. And now that young Hiroto has sent a formal parley invitation, he needs to honor it like his ancestors did. But Master Splinter isn't letting his guard down. He is expecting every form of treachery when approaching these peace talks. Be strong. We will see you all again soon, are Master Splinter's last words as Donnie takes off with him on the ship. Unbeknownst to the Turtles, however, Stockman has been keeping a close eye on their base. As soon as the ship leaves, he orders his strike teams to jump into action. The Turtles' striker teams are patrolling around the building, but something doesn't seem right. They've spotted movement near the big construction trucks and want a better view of the situation. Their leader also orders for some backup and drones in the air, but before these things can come to fruition, the three of them are instantly taken down by the Foot Clan strike team. By the time the other strikers notice what is going on, it's already too late. They are being surrounded and swarmed by Foot Clan soldiers in all directions. Thankfully, one of them manages to trigger the alarm, warning the Turtles, and this sends Stockman into a fit of rage. He wanted this done stealthily, and yet they're not even 30 seconds into the operation, and the alarm has already gone off. Stockman was sending in his teams to capture the Fugitoid with the least amount of resistance, but now they will have to fight their way through. He orders the strike team to focus on Honeycutt while he sends some of his prototypes to help fight the battle. The scene is grim. Cries of battle echo throughout the facility as Leo tries to take control. The striker team member manning the defenses tells him that they are surrounded by the Foot Clan and the ambush seems a planned one. Leo has no time to think about how this could have happened. He needs to defend the base, and he needs to do it fast. He orders his men to lock down all outer doors and man all access points. He wants them read and armed for the Foot Clan soldiers when they arrive. He then calls out for Casey over the radio, who is with Mikey and Honeycutt in the hangar. They've just said goodbye to Donnie and Master Splinter and have heard the alarms blaring in the distance. Casey and Mikey are heading towards Leo, along with the rest of the crew, when we see the Foot Clan planting explosives around the facility. The very next second, a blast goes off in the hangar, and it's clear that Stockman and his team are coming for the Dr. Honeycutt. Casey wants to retreat to their underground base, but Leo has more bad news. The sewers too have been infiltrated by the Foot Clan, and their only choice now is to retreat to the main compound, where they can hold themselves in. They need to head for their safe room. It's their only option at this point. Casey agrees. He's getting out of the hangar along with Mikey and the rest of the tech team when suddenly he hears Leo being ambushed by the Foot Clan. These soldiers are new. They have new armors and tech. Clearly a new invention of Stockman. Casey, about that backup, hurry up. Leo is alone and fighting off the Foot Clan soldiers one at a time. Going to Leo is going to be tough, but Casey is heading there nonetheless. But before he leaves, he orders Mikey to get April and Honeycutt to safety. Mikey's his only hope. Back at the upper level, Leo is making quick work of the Foot Clan soldiers when he is suddenly ambushed by Stockman's new prototypes, Foot Clan soldiers with cybernetic enhancements. Mikey is trying to get April to follow him, but she can't leave Casey alone. She wants to fight too, but Mikey has his orders. He isn't letting April or Honeycutt get involved in the ambush. Honeycutt, meanwhile, has managed to figure out that this is all Stockman's doing. The crazy scientist is back for him, and he's found a way to track the Fugitoid. The new prototypes developed by Stockman have meanwhile found their way into the hangar, and they ambush Mikey, April, and Honeycutt while they're trying to get into the safe room. Casey, on the other hand, has managed to find his way back to Leo, and he's hungry for some blood. He doesn't know if Stockman's prototypes are human or not, but he's more than eager to find out as he leaps towards them, brandishing a hockey stick in each hand. Back at the safe room, Stockman's new prototypes have managed to corner Honeycutt. The Fugitoid lies on the floor as fires blaze around him, when thankfully, Mikey manages to rescue him by decapitating the cyborg with a single swing. Suddenly, the decapitated robot explodes near the safe room, which sends Honeycutt, April, and Mikey flying in different directions. Bah! Imbeciles, send in the Mousers. Now, all of them, screams Stockman over the radio as he realizes his prototypes have damaged Honeycutt with their explosion. Thousands of Mousers, small flying drones equipped with lasers, are dispersed from his van as they make their way towards the safe house. Casey, meanwhile, is having a tough time with the new prototypes, and it's time he switches up his weapons to be more effective. He throws his hockey away and takes out a cricket bat instead, but Casey's only human, and the new prototypes aren't. The cyborg punches Casey in the chest and sends him flying away the very next second. Casey smashes into a nearby tool storage, where thankfully he's bestowed upon a new weapon by the universe. A sledgehammer. Just what the doctor ordered. Back near the safe house, Mikey is in full swing, using his nunchucks to decapitate the new prototypes one by one. He orders April to get inside the safe house along with Honeycutt, but there's a slight issue. Firstly, Honeycutt is in bad shape. His Fugitoid body is badly damaged. And moreover, there's a lot of debris blocking the safe house door. It won't close, not until they manage to get rid of the debris. Do what you can, April. I'll hold them off. It's sheer chaos all around the facility, but Casey luck finally seems to be shining again. The new sledgehammer he found is more than effective against the new prototypes, as he manages to decapitate one of them with a single swing. He continues beating through prototype after prototype as he approaches Leo. All right, Leonidas, what's the plan? Casey lifts up his mask, and despite all the spunk in his voice, most of his face is covered in blood. And when Leo and him look around, things aren't looking good for them either. Hundreds and thousands of Mousers approach the two of them, accompanied by a fresh force of Stockman's new prototypes, and the two of them know this is too much for them. They don't stand a chance, but they both know that despite the odds, they can't falter now, not in front of Mikey. They need to protect him. April and Honeycutt. Leo talks to Mikey over the radio. Mike, we'll stall these things as long as we can. You get everyone clear, then get the word to Donnie and Sensei. Mikey tries to protest, but Casey isn't having any of it. He wants April safe, especially now that they're engaged. Do it, Mikey, he screams as Leo and him get ready to face off against the approaching army. Back near the safe house, April has managed to clear all the debris and is ready to close the safe house door when Honeycutt suddenly limps out using his broken body, which is missing a leg and an arm. I know it's me you've come for, Stock. I'll self-destruct before I let you hurt my friends or imprison me again. You shall not pass. Stockman can hear Honeycutt over the radio using his Mousers, and he knows the doctor's telling the truth. But if Stockman can't have Honeycutt, then he won't let anyone else have him either. He triggers the self-destruct sequence on all of his Mousers, which takes down the entire building with a loud explosion. It's done. Everyone is dead. And in the rubble of the building, Casey's mask hangs off of a broken rebar while Leo's sword lies embedded in the rubble. Casey and Leo both are gone. Back in the present day, Casey Marie Jones has managed to make it out of the sewers and into the subway. But sadly for her, the power has been cut to the entire facility and everybody around her is panicking. She knows Hiroto is crazy, but she never expected such drastic measures from him. She worries about her crew as she runs towards the park, their rendezvous point. Thankfully, her crew is safe, and they quickly update her on what's happened since Hiroto's broadcast. The entire city is now under martial law. Hope your mutant was worth it, Jones, says one of them, and Casey Marie can't help but get weighed down by her choices. But this is no time to sulk around. She tells them to get the word out to the rest of the resistance while she works up a plan alongside her mother. Suddenly, they're ambushed by Foot Clan soldiers in an armored vehicle, and everyone makes a run for it. She orders two of her men to take care of the soldiers, while the rest of them head for the underground. They continue beating up the soldiers standing in their way, and Casey Marie feels it to be the best for all of them to split up. They'll all take the tunnels in different directions and pick off, the guards following them one by one. They soon decide the directions they'll be heading in and plan on coordinating the rest of the resistance once they're safe using the old telecom lines. She orders them to meet at the lair in an hour, no matter what happens, and then heads for the sewers again. She knows she needs to get to her mom, April, to inform her of what's going on, but to reach her fast, she'll have to ditch the sewers. Casey Marie will have to break her own rules. She heads for the top side, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as she emerges from the sewers, she sees a helpless woman being cornered by a Foot Clan soldier. Casey Marie, being April and Casey Marie's daughter, can't simply stand and watch this. So the very next second, she leaps for the soldier and kicks him in the face. She orders the woman to get to safety as she takes care of the rest of them. Soon she is ambushed by two more soldiers, and Casey Marie knows she needs to get out of there fast if she is to reach her mom in time. She orders all the civilians to get out of the street while she tries to get her bearings by glancing at the nearby street signs. Back at the lair, April is trying to take Mikey's blood, and he's being a baby about it, just like his teenage self. Turns out that despite all the hardships and training he's had in the past 16 years, Mikey is still scared of needles, but this is important. April needs his blood to see what this advanced level of mutation is doing to his body at this stage. But am I gonna have any blood left after this? What are you, 5 years old? It's barely any blood. Once April is done, Mikey turns his head towards the Fugitoid head. He wonders if it's still functional, if Honeycutt's still in there. But this is the answer April has been wondering too all these years. All the years since she recovered the Fugitoid head. She hopes so, but can't test her theory because it will be like sending out a beacon. She's sure that the last time they were ambushed, Stockman had managed to track down Honeycutt, and activating the head now will lead the entire Foot Clan to them within minutes. Mikey then turns towards April. It's time he asks the burning question. It's time he addresses the elephant in the room. April, after the explosion, how'd you end up here? April has been dreading this, but she knows it's high time she tells Mikey. It wasn't easy for her, but thankfully once the explosion was taken care of, she was found out by a rescue team that took her to the hospital. She was in a coma for a week, and once she woke up, she found out she'd lost everything. She'd lost her husband, her friends, an arm, and a leg. And moreover, she found out that she was pregnant. And so, despite how she felt, she knew she had to live. She had to live on for her baby. So she stayed in the hospital for months, recovering, going through physical, mental therapy, and coming to terms with her current situation, and most importantly, coping healthily. And while she was recovering, Hiroto was working relentlessly to take control over New York. When they finally discharged me, I had a shiny new arm and leg, and a shiny new baby to go along with them. Things were getting really bad in the city, so I moved us down in the lair. With the store destroyed and everyone gone, it was all I had left to remind me of. Well, you know. By now, she has all the blood she needs from Mikey and is busy patching him up. And when Mikey asks her how she got the Fugitoid's head, she tells him that Leo and Casey Marie's strike team that survived had recovered it from the rubble for her. Most of them have died by now, and the ones that are left are now part of the underground resistance. You know, Casey Marie told me about all the training you did in Asia, but she didn't say how the hell you got all the way over there. And this is when Mikey continues his flashback and tells April that once he woke up after the explosion, he realized he was almost a neighborhood away from the blast. By the time Mikey was able to make his way back to the building, he never expected anyone to have survived that explosion. He then made his way into the sewers, and then finally reached the lair. From there, he tried contacting Donnie and Master Splinter, but received no answers. So with nothing to do, and assuming that only Donnie and his father had survived, Mikey grabbed all the things he could and hitched a ride on a cargo plane, heading for Japan. He didn't know what else he could do. He needed to find the remaining family he had. April puts her arm on Mikey's shoulder. She knows he's going through survivor's guilt, something she was treated for, but she goes on to tell him that there's nothing they could have done, nothing either of them could have changed to help their loved ones. She then tries to distract him. I think I know how to beat Hiroto. Then you need to show us how. Right now, Mum. Casey Marie's back and her crew is here with her. Although battered and bruised, they're ready for a fight, ready to take down Hiroto. April goes on to tell everyone that the only way they can easily take down Hiroto is by first taking down Stockman's base. This will render all the Cyborg Foot Clan soldiers powerless, making it way easier for them to strike down Hiroto. And the only way to take down Stockman is by connecting Honeycutt to Stockman's network. Although April and Casey Marie believe in the plan, Mikey is too skeptical. He believes that the plan has too many variables that can go wrong, too many moving parts, and too many assumptions. The fact that their plan hinges on first infiltrating Stockman's base and then hoping that Honeycutt will wake up and help them when activated is too many assumptions. Mikey has been winging it since he came back from Asia, but even this is too much for him to hinge on. Casey Marie screams at Mikey as he protests, "At least these are better odds than a 100-year-old mutant attacking Hiroto directly." Mikey and Casey Marie start arguing once again, but April's had enough. This is no time for infighting. She holds Mikey's arm and pulls him away. There's something she wants him to see. April leads Mikey deep into the base while telling him all the tests she's run on Honeycutt's head over the past years. According to her research, everything is intact and working. The parts and circuits that were damaged have been replaced by her. So once Honeycutt is activated, April is pretty sure that he'll be all there and will be able to help them to take down Stockman. She leads him deep into the sewers and then opens a locked door. It's another one of April's surprises. And even though Mikey should be used to them by now, he can't help but gawp at what he's seeing. Whoa, I've been building, and I think Donnie would approve, don't you? Yeah, but what is it? Just a little something to even the odds. And as the panel opens, we see that April has been working on a heavily armored truck strong enough to break through walls and equipped with enough weapons to take down an entire army. The Last Ronin Part 4, Blood and Snow. We're in the lair, and Casey Marie is busy training her fighting skills against a boxing bag, while Mikey watches her technique and skills from the background. The ghosts of his brother join him to assess Casey Marie. She's now cut her hair short, and she is clearly itching for a real battle. But it is pretty apparent to Mikey and his brothers, even though Casey Marie is skilled. Training alone in the lair over the years has made her pick up on some bad habits when it comes to her techniques. Leo believes in her skill, but knows that it will take at least 10 more years of training to iron out the kinks and the bad habits she's picked up. But Mikey knows that's precious time they don't have right now, which is why he has to confront her now to see what she's willing to learn and correct. Well, besides getting your cardio in, that was just about useless. Casey Marie turns around surprised. She hadn't noticed or heard Mikey come in. He challenges her to a sparring session while criticizing her skills. Casey Marie is surprised. She can't believe what she's hearing. She's been waiting for this moment ever since she laid eyes on Mikey, but her hesitation makes Mikey criticize her further. Figures? Nothing but a child pretending to be a warrior? It's clear that Mikey's trying to get her blood pumping, and it seems to be working. Casey Marie grits her teeth and launches herself at Mikey, and although she's skilled, she's sadly no match for the trained turtle. Good thing you yelled first, or you might have completely caught me off guard. Casey Marie is growing angrier by the second. She kicks, punches, throws everything she's got at Mikey, but he catches and blocks her every move. Once she's done, he flips her his head and simply throws her away. I wouldn't get up if I were you. But Casey Marie isn't going down without a fight. She gets up again, and this time attacks Mikey with intent. She has a plan in mind, and Mikey notices this. But still, even this isn't going to take the veteran turtle down. She continues to throw everything she's got at Mikey. She even tries some new moves. Sadly, they're the ones she's seen in movies, and they will never work against someone who's even remotely trained in martial arts. As she continues her relentless assault, it becomes easier and easier for Mikey to block and parry her moves. You're wasting energy, running on fumes. You're growing tired, very tired, and you're done. Casey Marie desperately tries to continue, but even she knows, deep down, she knows she's exhausted. And with one final move, Mikey smacks her against the wall. Please feel free to take this time to think about how you could have done that differently. He still has Casey Marie pinned against the wall, but she's refusing to learn what he's teaching her. And when she finally decides to give up, Mikey tells her that this was never about giving up. It was about learning to be subtle, learning to be fluid, holding yourself back, being elusive, avoiding strikes rather than delivering them. She should wait for her enemies to wear themselves down just like he did before using her own energy. Casey Marie, however, has had enough. She doesn't like being humiliated while she's training, but she's missing the point again. Mikey tells her that she's practically his family now, and she needs someone to train her if she's to be any good. And this was Mikey's way of offering her training. He wants to train her. Like, seriously? No bull? You'll really teach me? Like a real teacher? It's sensei. But before Mikey can say more, Casey Marie has locked her arms around him and has already accepted his offer. Mikey is flustered by this sudden gesture. She's like his own kid, and he can't wait to begin her training from tomorrow. Thank you, Mikila. Sensei? Yeah, no problem. No, go get a haircut. Ha! Haircut! Good one. Once Casey Marie has left, Mikey holds his head in his hands. He can't believe he just told her to go get a haircut. Not on the day she already got one, but that is when April approaches him from behind. She appreciates his gesture and knows that Master Splinter would be more than proud of Mikey for doing this, for teaching Casey Marie. Mikey tries to apologize and hopes he wasn't overstepping, but this gesture, him offering to teach Casey Marie and show her the right direction, is more than anything April could have ever asked from Mikey. She tells him that Casey Marie has her brains and her father's courage, but she needs something more. She needs a way to channel all her energy in the correct direction, and Mikey's training is exactly what she needs. And now that she's mentioned Master Splinter to him again, she wants Mikey to tell her what happened after he landed in Japan all those years ago. Mikey's head suddenly stoops low. All these memories are still too hard for him, but April and Casey Marie are the only family he has now, and April has every right now. And so Mikey tells her the rest of the story. Once Mikey landed, he stealthily made his way out of the airport and then set out to find Clan Hamato in the countryside. The journey was treacherous because Mikey didn't know where to look, and all he had for directions was a crappy hand-drawn map and what Master Splinter had told him and his brothers about Japan. At one point, he was completely lost in the wilderness, and when he was ready to give up any hope of finding the clan, he came across a remote village, but when he tried to approach it, he was instantly surrounded by samurai warriors, brandishing real weapons. In an instant, he knew they were the real deal, which is why, without hesitation, he told them who he was. I am Michelangelo, son of Master Splinter of Hamato clan. But the warriors simply grunted and pointed him towards the village. When he entered the village, he was greeted by an elder. And when Mikey told the elder who he was, the man simply stared at him with sad eyes. Minutes passed until the elder finally spoke up. I am Master Shinichiro of Clan Hamato. Please follow me. We will speak further inside. Mikey was taken inside and treated to tea in the traditional Japanese way. And although Mikey knew he should have maintained decorum, he was too desperate to know what happened to his father and brother, what happened to his remaining family, Donnie and Master Splinter. Master Shinichiro continued staring at Mikey with sad eyes until he finally gave in and told him the story of what happened once Donnie and Master Splinter arrived in Japan. There are people, creatures, teachers, warriors, heroes, and legends. Your father, Master Splinter, was all of these. Master Shinichiro goes on to tell Mikey that once the two of them arrived in Japan, he was the one to receive and greet them when they landed. They discussed the matter of having peace with the Oroku clan profusely, and none of them wanted to blindly trust the other party, especially after the treacherous past the two clans shared. They spent the night anticipating the next day, and once it finally arrived, all of them dressed up in their samurai armor and headed for the location decided by Oroku Hiroto, a graveyard. Neither Master Shinichiro nor Master Splinter approved of the choice, yet for the sake of peace, they decided to let it pass. When they reached the location, they were greeted by Hiroto's ambassador, and the young master of clan Oroku was nowhere to be seen. This instantly put them on the edge, while the ambassador desperately tried to calm them down. The ambassador went on to tell them that his master is bound to show up any moment, and then brought up the fact that all of them are carrying weapons, something they had agreed upon not to do when going through the peace talks. I do not recall agreeing to that term. These are merely ceremonial decorations, if you will, said Master Splinter as he tried to maintain calm between the two parties. The ambassador then tried to convince them to agree to the peace terms before the arrival of Hiroto, but Master Splinter wasn't having any of it. He knew there was something fishy going on, which is why they decided to wait for Hiroto before agreeing on any terms. The ambassador was as sly as a fox, using the prospect of peace to his advantage in desperate attempts to have them sign the treaty before his master's arrival. Thankfully, Master Shinichiro and Master Splinter could see through his honeyed words and did not give in. When he kept insisting, it was Master Splinter who slightly unsheathed his katana to emphasize that they wanted to wait. The ambassador knew that the talks clearly weren't going in his favor, and that is when Hiroto decided to ambush them. Ha! So the prodigal mutant returns. Welcome home, rat! Hiroto rides in on his horse alongside his generals and army and gloats to Master Splinter how easy it was to separate him from his family back in New York by simply offering him peace. Tell me, rodent, have you heard anything from your family in New York? Ha ha ha. But Master Splinter was expecting this, especially after the way the ambassador was acting since they arrived. And thus, with one swipe of his katana, he instantly beheads the ambassador along with the Foot Clan soldiers standing beside him as he gets ready to address Hiroto. Master Splinter shakes the blood off his katana, and Hiroto orders his soldiers to attack. No mercy, my son, says Master Splinter, as the three of them get ready to face off against the Foot Clan. Turns out, Foot Clan soldiers had been hiding in the snow and behind the graves all this while. Master Splinter, Master Shinichiro, and Donnie are completely surrounded, but without any hesitation, the three of them leap into action, slicing and dicing every Foot Clan soldier that stands in their way. Even though Donnie wields a bow staff, even he is out for blood. He manages to stab a soldier using his staff directly in the head. Master Splinter, on the other hand, is appalled by the dishonor shown by Hiroto. Even his ancestors had better manners and honors when compared to Hiroto, which is why Master Splinter is headed directly for him. If you choose not to stand aside and allow me access to your master, I will cut my own path. And although the Foot Clan soldiers are being cut down like fodder, there are too many of them. Master Splinter knows it's only a matter of time before the three of them are overwhelmed by the soldiers. They keep fighting and cutting down soldiers, but as predicted, The numbers soon start overwhelming them. Donnie is the first one to get stabbed by a soldier right in his left arm, but this doesn't deter him at all. Hiroto, on the other hand, is growing tired of waiting. He orders his army to bring in the archers. Master Shinichiro commands one of his generals to go get the Hamato clan army. The Foot Clan archers soon show up on the mountainside, while Hiroto continues to gloat to Master Splinter. He tells Splinter how his entire family has been killed back in New York, how this is his last day on Earth. But Master Splinter isn't going down without a fight. He continues advancing towards Hiroto. Come boy, face me like a true warrior. Come meet your ultimate fate at my blade, like your grandfather before you. Master Splinter seems to be losing his cool as he fails to heed Donnie's warnings to back up and regroup due to the approaching archers. Master Splinter continues advancing towards Hiroto, who screams, "Prepare to die, monsters! No, you will not escape my sword, you treacherous coward." Donnie desperately tries to stop his father, but it's already too late. As Master Splinter makes his final dash towards Hiroto, he finally gives his archers the order to fire their arrows. "For my family!" screams Master Splinter as he flings his sword at Hiroto. The next instant, Donnie jumps in front of his father, taking most of the arrows meant for him. Master Splinter's sword, however, catches Hiroto directly in the chest, missing his beating heart by a mere inch or two. By now, Clan Hamato's reinforcements have arrived. Master Shinichiro screams, "Clan Hamato rain hell," but it's already too late. Donnie and Master Splinter have succumbed to the arrows while Hiroto has survived and is rescued by one of his generals. The Foot Clan retreats, and in the wake of them, they leave the bodies of Master Splinter and Donatello. "We could not save them, Michelangelo. I am truly sorry," says Master Shinichiro to Mikey when the story is finished. And that's how Mikey learned that his entire family was wiped out by Oroku Hiroto. Master Shinichiro offered Mikey to stay with the clan, but all those warriors only reminded Mikey of his loss. This is when Mikey politely declined the offer and decided to walk towards the mountains and keep walking. Back in the present day, April can barely hold her tears back as Mikey says, "As the last of my kind, a Ronin, I decided the feud must end. I would follow my father's journal and complete the mission intended from birth. All Oroku must perish. If I'd known you were alive, it might have been different, but the mission would still be the same. I'm sorry." April wipes her eyes and reassures Mikey that he doesn't need to be sorry. She understands what he's been through completely and understands why the mission is so important to him. She takes Mikey's hand in hers and says, "You're here now, and that's what counts. And the way Casey Marie has taken to you, I never thought she'd be able to connect with someone the way she has with you." "You sure about that? Seems like our connection is by design." "Your design." This shocks April to the core as Mikey holds his head in his hands. She doesn't understand what he's talking about, but Mikey turns to her in anger and screams that Casey Marie has special abilities. When was April planning to tell him about that, huh? Why would she keep this from Mikey of all people? Why did April inject her own daughter with the mutagen? "Hell no! I would never do that to my child," she screams. But then Mikey can't understand how Casey Marie has special abilities. April then tells him that she has run hundreds of tests on her daughter since she was born, but has been unable to trace the origins of her mutagen DNA, and as far as she can theorize, the mutagen DNA was passed on to Casey Marie by her parents that were in contact with mutated turtles for the most of their lives. Mikey can't believe that he and his brothers contaminated everyone, but April tells him that's what happens with these things. Nobody knows, and although Casey Marie is aware that she has some special abilities, April hasn't told her everything, but she plans to tell her soon, very soon. Till then, Mikey and April agree to keep this secret between themselves. With all the tension finally subsided, April takes Mikey to the kitchen. She's starving, and moreover, she has some friends coming over that she wants Mikey to meet. April's friends are all the members of the Resistance, and by the looks of it, all of them are ready for battle. Even Casey Marie is dressed in her combat outfit. They show Mikey a photo of Stockman's base. It's a fortress on an island in the East River, Roosevelt Island. Mikey sighs. This is more than he had expected. He was expecting a building, maybe a tower on the mainland, but a fortress on an island in the middle of a river. But he can't do anything now, and he asks the commanding officer, Captain Avalone, to continue briefing everyone about the plan. The captain tells them that they have rafts with cloaking devices which should allow the resistance to position squads on the island's shoreline easily. The element of surprise and the fact that Stockman believes his fortress to be unreachable without being detected should give them enough advantage to complete their mission. But these things are easier said than done. When the resistance, Mikey and Casey Marie, reach the island, they are immediately forced to take cover due to the heavy artillery bombardment from 2 watchtowers. And what's more is the fact that April's completely unreachable while they're pinned down. Casey Marie wants to take down the towers by circling the perimeter of the fortress, but Mikey knows this a very dangerous plan, and they could lose a significant number of soldiers if things don't go their way. He asks the men to lay down suppressive fire, while he tries to find another way to penetrate the fortress. As Mikey leaps into action from behind the cover, he commands Casey Marie to drop smoke, lots and lots of smoke. As the resistance starts laying down suppressive fire and smoke, it gives Mikey enough time to approach the metal soldiers advancing on them. He manages to make quick work of the smaller ones, which irks Stockman, who is sitting leisurely in his base. He doesn't even bother to check the cameras and assumes that it's some low-level thugs looking for junk that they can sell on the black market. He decides to send in the big guns, and as Mikey approaches the fortress, he sees a giant mechanical robot with blades, pincers, and machine guns heading straight at him. Mikey leaps in the air to avoid the robot's blades and then stabs it directly in the eye. But before he can finish it off, the robot uses its pincers to grab hold of Mikey and pin him down to the ground. Although the robot has been eliminated, Mikey's leg is stuck under the heavy metal body. He only has a few seconds before more robot soldiers are upon him when suddenly, Casey Marie jumps out of nowhere to rescue him. "I thought I told you to stay put." "You did." "I didn't." Terrible discipline. Excellent initiative. Don't do it again. "Yes, Sensei." By now, the resistance forces have managed to pin themselves against the fortress wall, while narrowly avoiding the incessant gunfire thrown their way from the watchtowers. But Mikey knows they are sitting ducks if they stay here too long. He needs to find a way inside, and he needs to do it fast. Inside the fortress, Stockman is informed that there are multiple life forms approaching his facility, but he doesn't pay any heed to the warning. He continues to think it's some low-life thugs trying to steal his trash. He trusts his technology to deal with them without blinking an eye. Mikey is desperately waiting for April to contact him, but it isn't working. He's only getting static. He quickly has to switch to Plan B and orders everyone to follow Casey Marie. They can't penetrate the main gates without April's help, and so they're headed for the next best thing. By now, they should have infiltrated the fortress according to their plan. Sadly, that has not happened, which is why the Stryker Airborne Squad that was supposed to back them up when they're inside are now sitting ducks for the guns along the perimeter wall. They are shot down quickly and efficiently as Mikey desperately tries to take out the guns one by one. Stupid plan. Stupid plan. With the turrets now taken out, the ground forces outside the fortress will now be able to regroup and relax a little, while Mikey can now jump down and accompany the airborne strikes to help infiltrate the facility. Meanwhile, inside Stockman's control room, his AI drone urges him to reconsider his defensive tactics because the turrets on the walls have now been taken out. He wants this attack to be over, and he wants it done fast, and the only way to accomplish that is by sending out the Mousers. If the Resistance's attack had gone as they had planned, by now the ground troops would have infiltrated the fortress, and April should have hooked up the Fugitoid to the largest generator in the facility, which would have reactivated it and would have allowed them to talk to Dr. Honeycutt. But Mikey realizes this isn't a possibility anymore as he hits the ground level inside the fortress. Back in Oroku Tower, Hiroto is informed of the attack on Roosevelt Island. Hiroto isn't a fan of Stockman, and his association with the scientist is simply symbiotic. But he needs him in order to continue his control over the city, which is why he orders his captain to send over a squad to the island just in case things get out of hand. On the ground level inside the fortress, Mikey is about to be surrounded by thousands of Mousers at any moment. There are too many of them, and Mikey can't use an EMP to take them all out. On the outside, in a desperate measure to help Mikey, Casey Marie uses all of the Resistance's explosives to try and breach the wall, but it doesn't work. "Come on, Mom. Where the hell are you?" and as Mikey accepts his fate at the hands of the approaching Mousers, the fortress wall behind him suddenly explodes and April comes in, driving the AFV with all of the Resistance's ground forces in her wake. "Sorry, I got hung up getting across the river. Got stuck at the bottom. By the way, did I ever tell you how much I hate Mousers?" And as she says the last words, she sends out a huge EMP explosive that takes out all the approaching Mousers instantly. Mikey orders Casey Marie to follow April to the mainframe so they can activate Honeycut, while Mikey plans to stay on the outside to ensure Stockman doesn't have any more surprises for them. The location April is headed for is right in Stockman's control room. The mainframe and main power source are located right there. She blasts directly through the wall of the control room using the AFV, which startles Stockman. It takes him a few minutes to gather his bearings, but by then, April has already jumped out and attached the Fugitoid head to the mainframe. All she needs to do now is attach the power cables, but by then, Stockman has spotted them. "Honeycut, here? Fire everything at them. Kill them all, but bring me that robot head." By now, April has activated the Fugitoid head, and she's desperately begging the doctor to come online and help them. He's their last hope, and if he doesn't help them, they'll all soon perish. Suddenly, there's a loud explosion from the Fugitoid head, which sends April flying away. By now, Mikey has managed to reach them with the rest of the Resistance, and together they are helping take down all the forces Stockman is throwing at them. Mikey is taking down every robot in sight, while Casey Marie kicks every Mauser that comes her way. April is continuing to fiddle with the Fugitoid head in order to activate Dr. Honeycut when Stockman suddenly comes charging at her. But April is ready this time. She uses her cybernetic arm to punch Stockman directly in the face. "This is for my husband." But it's not enough. In the past 2 decades, Stockman has managed to replace almost every part of his body with cybernetic implants. And although he felt the punch, April is no match for his cybernetic body. He flings April away with a single swipe of his hand and then turns his attention towards the Fugitoid head. He pries it off of the wall, finally attaining the prize he's always wanted. But that is when a familiar voice rings out of the Fugitoid head, "You shall not pass." The doctor is now online and a huge surge of power envelops him and Stockman. "You shall pay for my family, for my friends, for everything." And as he says his last words, bang. A loud explosion disintegrates Stockman into nothing but dust. His entire body explodes, but sadly, along with him, the Fugitoid head, Dr. Honeycut, is also gone. Honeycut disintegrates into a nanobite swarm that slowly starts penetrating each part of the facility. Soon everything around them starts powering down, and minutes later, the entire city starts being affected. The Foot Clan soldiers start slowing down to a complete halt, and then the entire power to the city goes out. Every cybernetic Foot Clan soldier is now out of business, and people start swarming the streets. The martial law imposed by Hiroto will soon come to an end. Hiroto is having an aneurysm in the Oroku Tower. He's supposed to have control over the entire power grid, yet nothing seems to be working. He wants to contact Stockman immediately, but is soon informed that he has been blocked out of every system in the city by some kind of virus. Every technology he used to control the city, exert his power, is now dead. Sound a tactical alert now. I want everything with a weapon in this tower, now. On the streets, meanwhile, especially in the bottom districts, people are finally beginning to express their dissent against Hiroto. Most of them have taken to the streets, armed with weapons, and are busy destroying what remains of the cybernetic Foot Clan soldiers. Mikey, Casey Marie, April, and the Resistance have reached the mainland now, and Casey Marie can't believe her eyes. This is what she has always wished for. "I think we won." But her mom, April, tells her that they've only won this battle, but the war is yet to come, and they need to win that too. The Last Ronin Part 5. Ronin. Mikey is now back at the lair, back in Master Splinter's room, and his brother's ghosts are back talking to him. Donnie can't believe their father's room looks exactly the same as before, but Leo is focused on more pressing matters at hand. Mikey has been brooding and thinking since they got back. His entire body is covered in bandages, and they want to know what Mikey plans to do next. Leo is getting agitated by each passing second. The longer they wait, the more advantage they lose that they currently have over Hiroto. Mikey managed to take Hiroto by surprise, and now is the perfect time to attack him before he can regroup. "Tell me something I don't know, Leo." It's then that Donnie joins in. He knows why Mikey is sitting in the room brooding. The weight of being the last of their family, the weight of exacting revenge and restoring their family's honor is too much for Mikey to bear. This pushes their hot-headed brother Ralph off the edge. He screams at Mikey in anger that he always knew Mikey never had it in him. Way to let us all down, Mikey. Go to hell, Ralph. I wish I could bring you back just so I could kill you myself. And I know damn well what I gotta do. Finish this. End this insanity. And despite the harsh words, this is enough to wake Mikey up, to push him to get up and do what needs to be done. Mikey storms out of the room and starts putting on his armor when everybody realizes what is actually weighing down on him, along with the weight of restoring his family's honor, along with the weight of seeking revenge for his lost brothers. Mikey now has the extra weight of killing Hiroto for the resistance, for April, and most of all, for Casey Marie. Ralph continues to assault Mikey with every word he can muster, but Mikey seems to be at peace now he doesn't pay much attention to his hot-headed brother. And that is when Donnie chimes in. He tells Ralph that he isn't helping at all and that they need to help Mikey formulate a plan. To no one's surprise, Ralph wants Mikey to go for a full frontal assault, but that is when Mikey's patience breaks. You guys are yapping more than you do listening, and I'm tired of repeating myself. I want you all to stop talking now, as he says his last words. Mikey puts on his mask and turns towards his brother. But despite his plea for them to stop talking, things haven't changed. They tell him that Mikey needs their help, but Mikey doesn't. He's been following their plans, their orders, their suggestions all his life. And what does he have to show for it? Their broken weapons. This is all that's left of them. That's low Mikey. We all did our part. Yeah, and to us, it was everything. Stinkin' ungrateful jerk. But Mikey is growing tired of his brothers. I know what you did. I live with it every damn day, and I've had enough. Leave me, leave now, and never come back. And just like that, Michelangelo is all alone once again. But something's changed. His brother's ghost leaving him doesn't affect him that much this time. He pulls out his father's journal, scribbles something in it, and then leaves the room. Casey Marie, meanwhile, is up on the street trying to establish some sense of control. With the power out and no Foot Clan soldiers to establish some kind of order, people are running rampant, ransacking everything in sight. This isn't exactly the rebellion she wanted, and she orders her men to establish contact with other resistance leaders to take control of their own sectors. But it is then that one of the resistance members comes running to her and tells her that the power outage is causing flooding in the sewers. Oh no, the lair! In the Oroku Tower, Hiroto is having a full-blown outburst. He's shouting and manhandling people in desperation to get them to heed his orders and to get the power back online. When things don't seem to be going his way, he orders all his soldiers to stay on high alert and orders his men to ready his armor. He knows Mikey is coming for him, and he's going to use everything at his disposal against him. Mikey, meanwhile, is already out at the top level, eyeing the Oroku Tower from a distance. Casey Marie, meanwhile, has reached the flooding lair and is desperately calling out for her mom, April, but isn't getting a reply. She continues calling out for her sensei and mom while running through each room when she finally hears back from April. April has been trying to fix the old water pumps to save the lair, but they have been neglected for too long, and it's no longer possible to get them to work. Casey Marie helps her mom get out of the pit and asks where Mikey is. She tells him that Mikey left without saying a word, without saying goodbye, and this sends Casey Marie into a full-blown fit. She punches the nearest wall to her while screaming with rage, and we get a glimpse of her special abilities because the wall comes crumbling down as if it was made of sand. April recoils in shock and asks her daughter to stop at once. Casey Marie Jones, stop it, you'll hurt yourself. But Casey Marie is too angry. She knows she's a mutant and that this won't hurt her one bit. April finally confides in her daughter and tells her what she knows, how she suspects that long-term exposure to the turtles infected both her and Casey Marie's father, which ended up mutating Casey Marie's DNA while April was pregnant. If this was years ago, April would have never told her daughter about this. But now that Mikey's showed up, she was going to tell her. And now he's out there fighting for us. Us? Asks a surprised April as she tells her daughter that this fight between the Hamato and Oroku clans has been going on for decades, long before she was born. how the Turtles were born, trained from birth to end this war once and for all. How after losing his entire family, Mikey should get to end this war in his own way. But Casey Marie has different plans. She has already put on her mask and combat suit. To hell with that. You said it, Mom. They're a part of us, in our blood, like family. My family, I'm in this fight to the end. Mikey, meanwhile, has already infiltrated the Oroku Tower again. With the cybernetic soldiers out of the way, he only has to face human soldiers, and they're barely going to be a match for his skill and prowess. But he's smarter this time. He knows the tower now, which is why he has placed thermite grenades in strategic places to create a distraction. But this distraction comes at the cost of giving up the element of surprise. As the explosions go off on the lower levels, Hiroto knows Mikey's here to face him once and for all. And Mikey was right. The human soldiers were no match for him. All the higher floors are silent. They're corridors, staircases all lined with multiple bodies of the human Foot Clan soldiers. When Mikey reaches the top floor, there's a huge guard blocking his way to Hiroto's residence. Mikey is playing smart this time. He uses flashbangs to blind the guard momentarily and then uses concussion grenades to open the door behind him. Once he has access to the residence, he gets to work fighting the huge guard. Although the guard puts up a decent fight, Mikey soon stabs him in the throat using Leo's sword. It's now time to face Hiroto. Oroku Hiroto, I'm here. What are you waiting for? That's when Mikey's attacked by synthetic crows. They're powered by a custom control system, not developed by Stockman, which is why they're still active, but they're no match for Mikey's EMP blast. But it is then that he is smacked in the face by a large robotic hand that belongs to a huge old-school robot powered by liquid fuel. The robot is fast, agile, and each hit it is able to land on Mikey hurts badly. Mikey needs to think quickly because one more serious hit could take him out easily. He then spots the large sword dropped by the huge guard he killed earlier, and without a second thought, he lifts it up and plunges it straight through the robot's gut. Enough! Where are you, coward? Coward? Hardly. I am not the one who skulked, who knows where in utter fear for 10 years after all. Hiroto finally appears in the distance, trying to get inside Mikey's head, but Mikey's too focused. He's here to kill him, to finally complete his mission, and no matter what Hiroto says, it won't affect Mikey. Mikey spots Hiroto's mother in the stasis chamber and says that the entire Oroku bloodline ends today. He's not only going to kill Hiroto, but also his mother. And that is when Hiroto reveals his true self. He's wearing a modified version of the original Shredder armor. Hiroto reveals that he doesn't care about his mother. He's always hated her for choosing to leave him at such a young age. He only keeps her alive so he can gloat to her, show her what he's done, show her that he's achieved everything she and his grandfather could never achieve. And then with a final scream, he thrusts his claws into the stasis chamber, killing his mother, Oroku Karai, by his own hands. At least she had honor, unlike you, Hiroto. You ready? Well, I certainly didn't get all dressed up for no reason. Let us begin the end. And the two of them start trading blows. The ferocity of the fight and the broken stasis chamber has now resulted in fire spreading throughout Hiroto's residence. And after only a few blows, Mikey realizes he's at a disadvantage. Hiroto's armor is like liquid metal, some kind of nanocarbide material that he can harden at will to form blades at the end of his fists. Another disadvantage is all the toxic smoke from the fire, something Hiroto's armor seems to be keeping out for him. His only advantage is Hiroto's growing anger, and Mikey plans to capitalize on it. He starts riling him up more and more. He calls Hiroto Mama's boy, but before he can rile him up more, a huge explosion goes off, which sends both of them flying out of the tower. In the sewers, Case Marie, along with some resistance members, is desperately trying to reach the main pumps in downtown to prevent the sewers from flooding when she's notified about the explosion at the top of the Oroku Tower. Damn it, Sensei, why didn't you wait for me? Mikey, meanwhile, is tumbling toward the ground along with Hiroto. Both of them desperately try to slow down their descent by holding on to a couple of wires. Hiroto misses his mark, but Mikey manages to grab hold of one. Angered by Mikey's success, Hiroto leaps and cuts off the wire. And as the two tumble down to the street level, Hiroto continues fighting Mikey every chance he gets. They fall through a glass ceiling, and Mikey realizes he needs to find a weak spot in Hiroto's armor before it's too late for him. Casey Marie, meanwhile, has managed to climb out of the sewers, only to watch the entire Oroku Tower go up in flames. She wants to go help Mikey, but helping the resistance, helping the people in the sewers, helping her mom is more important for now, and she needs to focus on that. Mikey and Hiroto, meanwhile, finally hit a free fall and are headed straight for a wooden water tank. As the two land, the water tank explodes into a million pieces. The water tank manages to break Mikey's fall enough that nothing major is broken in his body, and that's when he spots a large hole in Hiroto's armor resulting from the fall. His armor, however, soon repairs itself, but it's the opening Mikey wanted. He brandishes Ralph's sais as he gets ready to take on Hiroto again. Casey Marie, meanwhile, is in the sewers, desperately trying to get the subsystem pumps working to no avail, and this leaves her with only one choice: to force open the main pumps. But to do that, she will need to go underwater. She orders the resistance fighters to save as many people as possible, and then plunges into the depths to stop the sewers from flooding. Mikey, meanwhile, is growing weary as Hiroto continues his relentless assault. Mikey is bleeding, and Hiroto can see that, which is why Mikey knows that he needs to keep distance between them for now. But Hiroto isn't letting that happen. He keeps coming in for a close quarters fight and finally manages to slice Mikey's shoulder. In a desperate attempt, Mikey lodges a bomb in Hiroto's palm, and the resulting explosion creates a hole large enough in the armor so that Mikey can stab a sai right through Hiroto's hand. A gift from my brother, Raphael, but it seems to have barely hurt Hiroto. He pulls out the sai and breaks it in two. I will break you. And that's when Hiroto gets distracted by his burning tower. He loved his home too much, and he's just made the mistake of turning his back towards Mikey. Mikey quickly capitalizes on this opening by using a nearby rebar to hit Hiroto in the back, which sends him flying off of the building. Casey Marie, meanwhile, has managed to reach the main pumps, where she finds her mom already using a breather to fix them. Casey Marie, on the other hand, doesn't have her breather, and her lungs are burning. She needs to find a pocket of air as soon as possible. Back with Mikey, Hiroto has now hit the street level of the bottom district, and the resulting impact has damaged his armor badly. Mikey capitalizes on this by jumping on top of him and thrusting Leonardo's sword into one of his kidneys. This one's courtesy of Leonardo. Fine. Urge. I yield. You win. The Oroku Tower continues to crumble and explode in the background with loud explosions while Hiroto pulls out the sword from his abdomen and bows to Mikey. But Mikey isn't letting any of the Oroku's tricks regarding honor work again. He pulls out a manhole cover and is about to hit Hiroto on the head when suddenly he uses this opportunity to slice Mikey directly in the gut. Mikey holds the gash in his gut. He knows he shouldn't have left himself open like that, and now he'll have to put some distance between him and Hiroto. He uses Donnie's staff to smack Hiroto across the face so hard that the staff breaks upon impact. Donatello sends his regards. He uses this opportunity to jump down into the sewers. Mikey is bleeding profusely, and he needs to stop it as quickly as he can. On the other side of the sewers, April is sharing air with Casey Marie when suddenly rubble and debris come hurtling their way. On the other side, Mikey, meanwhile, is desperately trying to bandage the gash in his gut when he hears Hiroto jump down into the sewers. Once Mikey is done bandaging his gut, he takes out his nunchucks and leaps at Hiroto. Hiroto's armor, meanwhile, has somehow managed to seal itself back up again, but apparently it isn't as good as it used to be, because when Mikey hits him on the head, it sends a huge chunk of the armor flying away. Near the main pumps, meanwhile, Casey Marie is desperately trying to protect her mother from the falling debris when suddenly a large piece of rubble manages to hit her head on and pin her down on the floor. April notices this and uses brute force to kickstart the pumps and then heads straight for her daughter. Mikey, meanwhile, is continuing his relentless assault on Hiroto because with every hit, his armor is now failing him. Mikey is about to land the final blow when suddenly both of them are swept away by a huge current of water. A perfect opportunity missed because Mikey knows his body can now fail him at any given point in time. April, meanwhile, has managed to pull her daughter from under the debris. The flooded area of the main pumps is also free of water for now. She scolds Casey Marie for being so reckless, but is more than glad that her daughter is safe and sound. She then tells her that she injected a tracker in Mikey when she drew his blood, and she wanted to tell Casey Marie about it, but she was so angry that she'd already left before April could say anything. Casey Marie's eyes light up when her mom tells her about the tracker. She knows he can use the waterproof radio the Resistance gave her to track Mikey, and she rushes off. April promises to follow in her steps soon. Mikey and Hiroto, meanwhile, have been swept up by the pumped out water directly into the sludge outside the city. Mikey knows this is the end for him. He can barely stand, and the bleeding hasn't stopped. But Hiroto isn't in a good shape either. He's exhausted, and his armor is badly damaged. Mikey always knew that this was a suicide mission, but today, if he's dying, he doesn't plan on dying alone. He starts attacking Hiroto with his bare fists, and the fight is now finally going in his favor again. This mud hole will be your grave, Hiroto. Broken and alone outside the city you tried to destroy, forgotten forever. No, you're wrong. I am God. I am immortal. Hiroto tries to fix his armor forcefully as he says these words. He puts his arm in the middle of his chest and overcharges the armor, but it is too much. As Mikey suplexes Hiroto, his armor gives way and there is a huge explosion. Once the sludge and water settles, Hiroto lies there, motionless with a huge gaping hole directly in the middle of his chest. Hiroto is finally dead, and Mikey's mission is now over. His family's honor is now restored, and he can now finally rest. Exhausted and unable to control his body anymore, Mikey collapses on the edge of water on solid ground as he coughs blood from his mouth, expecting it to be over anytime soon. He then hears a familiar voice. "Sensei! I'm here, Sensei!" "It's me." Casey Marie rushes towards Mikey, but realizes she's already too late. In a desperate attempt to keep her sensei alive, she pulls out Master Splinter's journal from her bag. "No, you're not leaving me. I brought the journal, see? You were gonna teach me. It's not fair." Mikey coughs up some more blood and apologizes to her. This is what he had to do, unfortunately. This was his mission. He had to do it for his family. "But I'm your family now." "Yes, your mom, always. My father's journal left it for you." Cough. "It will teach you all he knew. But the last lesson, mine, most important of all." And Mikey opens the last page of the journal, the one where he had hastily scribbled "no peace." The phrase has now been changed with a few more letters. The word "no" has been changed to "know," K-N-O-W, which marks Mikey's most important lesson, knowing peace in life. By this point, April has managed to reach the two of them in her AFV, but as she approaches them, she knows it's already too late. "Oh, Mikey, goodbye, my sweet friend." And that's it. Mikey draws his last breath and passes away while Casey Marie lies sprawled on his chest, sobbing uncontrolled. "Mikey, wake up already, geez. You gonna sleep all day, bro? Longest nap ever." And just like his vision before, when Mikey opens his eyes, he sees his teenage brother and his teenage self back in their lair, just like it was back in the old days. It's like nothing has changed because the rest of his brothers are urging him to get up and get moving. They throw his nunchucks and baseball knee pads at him. Last one out does the dishes, but by the time Mikey gathers his bearings, he's already the last one out of the sewers. It's like nothing ever changed in his life. The four of them leap from rooftop to rooftop and finally come to a stop from where they can get a good view of the ocean. Geez, so much for fresh air, Mike. Cut the cheese. "I did not do it, Ralph." And then Casey Marie joins them. "Gotta side with Mikey on this one, Ralph. Whoever smelt it, dealt it." And after Casey Marie, Master Splinter's there too. Well, I cannot speak for Raphael's flatulence, but New York City indeed has its own unique odor. Mikey can't believe his eyes. They're all here, all of his family, together. He agrees with his father's words. Yeah, New York does. It smells like home. Epilogue. And not to leave the story on a sad note, let's check back with Casey Marie back in the lair. She is now busy training, and her technique has greatly improved, likely the result of Master Splinter's lessons in the journal. She's impressed with herself, but her morale instantly drops when she spots the journal. She clearly misses her sensei and wishes he was here to see how far she has come, but she doesn't plan on letting him down anytime soon. She won't stop training, won't stop learning. Casey Marie then cleans up and heads to her mother's lab where April is busy working on new equipment. She gives her mom a peck on the cheek and then asks, "So what are we eating today?" "Get what you want, kiddo. I'm not hungry. Wasn't talking to you, Mom. Hey there, buddies." And we then see Casey Marie has her own set of 4 mutated turtles, and she can't wait for them to grow up. Can't wait to teach them all the cool stuff she has learned from her sensei. The end. Marvelous verdict. The Last Ronin is a mature take on the beloved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It introduces mature themes and deals with mature topics that wouldn't normally be expected of traditional Turtles comics. It starts off with a bang by keeping Ronin's identity hidden until the very last page. The art does justice to what's going on in the story, and the gritty way to show Mikey's flashbacks is an excellent artistic choice. It reflects how his memories are muddled, jumbled up, and he can barely make out anything just like the reader. It deals with themes of loss, death, betrayal, while keeping a good pace without ever slowing down. The banter between the brothers can be heartbreaking at times, to see what loss, loneliness, and grief can do to a person really hits home. And the best part is that it isn't a hard read. It's quite easy to follow, with enough separation between flashbacks to let you know what exactly is happening in the story. Mikey is an excellent choice for the Ronin because his character growth fits the story arc perfectly. Mikey was always the lovable, goofy one, and he always had a lot of room to grow, unlike his brothers. Raphael was always too hot-headed. Leonardo always had too much responsibility and internal struggles to deal with, and Donatello was always the gentlest one. If it came down to choosing someone else, we feel Donatello could have also fit this story arc nicely. His timid and shy character had enough room to grow to justify becoming a Ronin and making the choices Mikey does. In short, if you're a Turtles fan that has grown up with them, then The Last Ronin is a great read to see the Turtles deal with adult problems and mature themes.